Welcome back, BBCers, to another episode of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue motivational podcast. We've got some motivation to start us off today, Curtis. A bit of a different sort of tone, more of a positive light from our recent video that we've released, the 3-hour case study on Nice. This is an awesome story that was shared to me by someone from Sol2. And the title, the headline of this is 32-year-old woman hits challenger on EUS solo queue. Her name's Nylana. I believe she's German. She's like a streamer. And she did an interview with this guy called Regis. And I just want to sort of share with you guys the Medium article, the interview that she had, talking about her experiences, sort of her background, her history. So she's a German streamer who just hit challenger on EUS solo queue, which is, literally 2 days ago.
Wow.
At 32 years old, she is both the oldest known player and first woman to do it in 2023. She also has a full-time job outside of LoL, making her achievement even more impressive. And then we had a few words about her achievement, and I'll put up, the screenshot here and a photo for some.
That's amazing.
Put a face to the name. How cool is that? So guys, just to put this into context, regardless whether she's a female or not, a 32-year-old person getting challenger, that's pretty rare.
In EU.
Especially
EU's
in EU.
a very competitive server.
On our lateral notes, I don't think we think we're the oldest players. I don't think there's anyone over 30 years old,
right.
even on just our server, on NA.
That's right.
Not too experienced. There might be one or two. I mean, if we calculate it in the world, I'm sure the numbers probably...
Over 30, the amount of challenger players would be very, very...
Probably maybe 20, 30, 50.
Barely
that. There's no way. There's no way
many.
more than
Not
50.
many.
Not many. So this is massive, guys. And especially it's hitting that. Not just this was an old player. She's been climbing since season 2. All right. And this is what her OPGG looks like. And I really want to encapsulate this, visualize this for you guys. All right. So she started in silver in season 2. So silver player in season 2.
Yep.
Season 3, she hit platinum. She was platinum 5 or whatever it was.
Okay.
Then season 4, she just moved up to about platinum 4. Season 5, diamond 2. Season 6, diamond 2. Season 7, diamond 2.
Okay.
So she's consistently playing every season, just chipping away. Season 8, master, 0 LP. Season 9, grandmaster. She got season 9 grandmaster.
Okay.
Then season 10 went back down to master 0 LP. We've talked a lot before about how you can have, sometimes you just have bad seasons. Maybe she had a bit more things in her life. She had to maybe she was transitioning job, get into a full time. And then the next season 11, she got to 400 LP. Season 12, exact same. Another whole year, didn't really progress at all. 400 LP again. And then this season, challenger.
Wow. So much respect. And the consistency there. The consistency.
The way that I think about it, it's this is where I visualize. This is what I want the average league player to really think about their journey. It's when you're training karate or something like that, you just years to get to a black belt, this is what the journey should look like in league. And it will start to look like this the more the game evolves, the more knowledge, more game gets respected. This is what I would love to see. This is this is my visualization of league in 10 years with the ranked ladder and that sort of stuff. Obviously, you can say Nathan, there's always going to be outliers that's 16, 17, okay. Yeah, that's of course, right? But we're remember this podcast, guys, this our audience, the demographic is just the average solo queue player, really untalented. We need to follow a process. We need to be really structured, review. Yes, there's going to be huge talents, but this is everything that the BBC is about.
I think that's really, I would argue that she's maybe not even an outlier in a sense, because the way she got challenger, in my eyes, a hyper talented, outlier would get, their journey would look something like gold to diamond to maybe mid master, then from master to low chow, or something it would be like a 4 or 5 season climb comparatively from from season 2 to what, 12, 10 years or something.
Yes, she's been playing for literally 10, 11 years.
So
a good example of that is Fudge. Remember Fudge's story? I can't remember exactly, but I remember he was playing for a long time. He's obviously very young, so he started at 9 and 10, I guess. But he was up to, I think, bronze, gold, platinum, up until season 6 or 7, I believe, and then it's just like
Boom.
platinum to like one of the best players on
Yeah.
the server, and then goes into NA and then just dominates. So that's like more of an example of, you know,
like a
that
really
just,
speedy rise.
Yeah.
That's typically more associated with talent.
And Fudge
I
is
would
obviously
love
talented.
to have what's her name again?
Her name is Nylana.
Nylana. I would love to have
Her
Nylana.
real name's Nicole.
Nicole. I'd love to have Nicole on the BBC.
So
one day.
she's, I looked at her Twitter. She's German. All the tweets are in German, so I'm not sure actually how
she
good her
might
English
not even
is.
speak English. Okay.
But we can maybe investigate this. So I want to read some of the article,
Okay.
if that's all right. So the first question is, how do you feel about your achievement of hitting Challenger? And she said, I'm just so incredibly happy. Playing with and against so many pro players was super fun, and I was able to learn a lot. How cool is that? And that's just what I want to hear. Guys, League is super fun. And imagine just chip it. It's like any craft. If you chip away at something for 10 years, slowly improving stuff, and then you get to the highest level, you get to understand the game.
And that is
It's so
actually
fun.
funny that we've always said this as well. Typically, you do have the most fun around Master Plus. That is when the game becomes incredibly fun.
Because you sort of really understand everything that's going. You have really good champion mastery.
Yeah.
She's a support player to note as well. That's her main role. Do you have anything else to comment on that?
No.
She started as a silver player in season 2 and have been gradually improving ever since. In season 8, I made it to master for the first time, and I also got a 1 game away from reaching challenger, but didn't make it. So she actually was
one
actually really
game.
close. But again, that's a great example where she, you know, sort of like had that peak, and then the next couple of seasons after that, she was struggling, and then she had to find her footing again, which I love those stories of.
It reminds me of the documentary we watched about the team who climbed that mountain, I mean, the hiking story, and they essentially was like a team of, what was the documentary called?
Summit, was it?
No, it was like a mountain in India, and essentially what happened, they got to they did all this preparation, and they got like, what was it, like 20 meters away from the summit, and then they had to turn back around. They couldn't make it to the summit.
Crazy
and then
stuff.
years later, they had to revisit it and build like the mental resilience, like or get in the right headspace to re-achieve it. That's actually, it's very similar, right? Because when you fail, when you're so close, it can be very demoralizing. So that's probably part of why she dropped back down. It could have been, oh, I'm never going to get it. And then, you know, she takes the foot off the gas for a season, and it takes her a year or two to recalibrate and get back into it again.
We'll have that documentary linked. We'll find that for
Meru.
you guys.
It's called Meru.
Was it? Oh, Meru. That's the
Meru,
one.
that's
yeah.
right. It's on Netflix. It was really good. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, that documentary was so good because you're like watching it and you're like, it's like gradually, and like there's like sort of like killing it. There's like some cool story. You just think, oh, okay, they're just going to get it in like one shot. But then, oh, it's just amazing. We sort
story.
of just like spoil it in a way.
Kind of spoiled, but I think it's still,
important,
regardless,
yeah,
like
to
the
watch.
process and what they go through.
Incredible stuff.
And like the amount of like how the what's at stake and how little, room for error there is. I admire a lot. You got to dedicate your entire life to that to achieve that level of greatness.
All right, next question here. She is at 32 years old. You are currently the oldest known challenger player in EUS. So that's obviously a fact. How big of a factor do you believe age is in solo queue performance? This will be a really good one for a lot of our audience here. Given that I managed to hit challenger, I think anyone can do it if they really want it and work for it. Neither gender nor age are excuses. You are the only constant in your games. And even though you can't win all of them, you can learn from all of them. Sometimes my reactions are too slow. Other times I get overwhelmed by everything happening and I feel like I'm too old for this shit. But ultimately, experience is an advantage for me.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I'll be honest. We've kind of been vocal about this in the past. I disagree a little bit.
Okay.
You know, I agree that with age comes experience, and I think there are certain advantages with age where I would say emotional resilience and discipline and being able to just keep yourself level-headed and think more long-term, because you're less emotional, you're less all over the place when you're young, right? You're a bit more mature. So I think that can give you a bit of an edge.
Yeah, so like starting at like 32 with like no gaming background.
That's a different story,
because
right?
other than that, she did start at about 20 years old
or something.
And if you play League Season 3, you probably meant you're a bit of a hardcore gamer. I mean, I'm not going to assume her gaming background, but we're really interested to know what her gaming background. Was she like a Dota player before? Did she have like an older brother? Because if you guys watch our
the recap of season 13.
Our interview with Kitty and Gabby.
Kitty and Gabby.
Talking about how like a older brother or something like that is usually what we
typically
find.
They have older brothers,
Yeah. That's like played the game, they got into the game and stuff like
Not
that.
always, but a lot of the time. So what I would push back on there is that Personally, and again, this is all subjective. Like, I don't believe that anyone can get Challenger.
Challenger, that's a big statement.
That's a huge statement.
That's
And I can see how you would think
small.
that. I could definitely see how you can think that doing it. But, you know, she might also be a little bit, you know, wanting to inspire people, which I understand. It is a good message to spread. But at the same time, I do think that, I believe that anyone can get to Master. I truly believe that. I don't believe that everyone can get to Challenger. I think the equivalent of like Master to Challenger, it's like, I use the base camp analogy of Mount Everest. Most people can get to base camp, but it really truly is base camp, and it feels like base camp. When you're a Master Tier 0 LP and making that climb, before you set on that trek to go for the summit, you know, you got to understand what you're getting yourself into. It requires a lot of dedication and a lot of discipline, and it's a different ball game, and it's a fun one, but it is a huge commitment.
Well, we saw Season 8, she hit Master. It's like 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years in that bracket, which that'll do it, right? If you've got a good mentality and you're dedicated and, you know, you're really, really pushing for that long, but that's difficult to do. To stay at that ELO bracket and play consistently hundreds and hundreds of games every season for 4 years in that ELO bracket, that's not easy to do for a lot of people. That's a lot of time and it's a lot of effort, and it can be very discouraging.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think that it's a pretty big statement to say anyone can get to Challenger. But yeah, I definitely think Diamond is really realistic.
Very, very, very. Like Diamond 4, like, you don't even, I don't really believe you have to be insanely disciplined as well, like insanely what's the word, like all in to get to Diamond 4. Like, you still got to put in work, don't get me wrong, it's still a journey, 3 blocks, etc. But that push, in my opinion, like even that push to D4 to or D2 to Master,
it's a big one.
That's a big one. It is a big one, very, very big one.
So she mentions here that she's, you know, obviously being difficult being a woman playing League of Legends, because she puts her face out there. She's a streamer and everything, which is...
Did she stream her journey?
I'm not sure.
I wonder that's what I'm really interested in. What percentage of her game
was on stream?
Was stream. I would love to tune. I actually, after this, I want to check out her stream and see, does she review her games on stream? Does she kind of play in, what's her playing schedule like? Does she not play her serious games on stream? I'd really love to know the specifics of what her journey looked like.
So she said here, people call her grandma. The insults motivate me. Winning those games feel especially rewarding. Thinking about how annoyed these people must feel when the grandma beats them and is ranked higher than them makes me happy.
Props to her. I have so much respect for her.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Very, very cool.
There's a question here, so this might answer maybe a question here. So what is it like trying to balance streaming and solo queue performance with a full-time job? So I've been streaming regularly while also working full-time for the past 7 years.
Wow.
It used to be easier to balance then, but now my time is even more limited. Besides my full-time job, I also have a husband, a dog, and 5 cats. That's way back in September. I decided to take a break from streaming. I'll continue in April. I've only got around 3 hours a day to play LOL.
Wow.
So that's just going again. That's like the perfect 3-block process, isn't it? That's pretty much all the only games you're going to get in, especially with high low queues.
Yeah, so maybe she's doing a 4-block or something like that. So maybe she's coincidentally been doing some sort of blocking method without even realizing.
Without intentional. Like, it's true. I mean,
maybe.
I always say for Will, right? I've been working for Will with a couple of years, and he was 13, 14 when I first worked with him, all through high school, and I got him from Diamond to rank 1 on the Challenger ladder. No invade plays was what he went by. He currently goes by Will NA1. And I think a huge part of that was he had the high school to like sort of break up the day.
It forced him to get out of his room and split up his day. And he only had that limited time to play, so his intensity's
higher, rather than someone that's just like playing like 14 days.
It is actually very difficult when you have a lot of free time to remain disciplined, isn't it? Because you've got, I got the whole day, I can procrastinate or whatever it might be.
A lot of the clients that I work with that do have lots of free time, that's a huge challenge. There's more narratives I find with them, way more prone to tilt. The swings are bigger. And this is where the 2-account strategy came in that I did last year. So for people that play like a lot and just want to play League all the time, then you have 2 accounts. You have one high intensity account where you only play 3 games a day, and then the other account you can just do whatever you want, you can play whatever you want. So that's where I recommend for those type of people to do the 2 account one, so you're not having huge swings and your whole confidence is tied to your league rank and stuff like that. That's what I did last year. That was quite effective. That I think helped me got to Challenger.
Yeah. But one thing I just want to comment on there.
Yeah.
She has a husband.
Yeah.
Full-time job and a husband. I mean...
And 5 cats.
And 5 cats. I'm looking after a cat and it's hard work.
That's 1 cat you're looking after.
That's 1 cat. So, again, I feel like this is
lots of responsibilities.
So much respect here. Not easy to do.
The stream break, she said, also helped me hitting challenges since I play better off stream.
Right.
Okay, we know that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't play as many games in a row and I don't have a chat I need to respond to so I can concentrate better. And then also the opponents can't ghost me. So we'll put her socials and that sort of stuff there. Follow her stream. Yeah, awesome story I wanted to share again.
I might go in there and chuck her a sub or something.
A huge, sort of contrast to our niece video there. And just showing, just chipping away, following a process, whether it's, maybe intentional, unintentional for her. But
I think the biggest thing, we don't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe she didn't really have a quote unquote process. I think the big thing I respect is just the determination, the consistency.
And also sounds like she has a growth mindset. She loved playing the game. She
and
really wanted to improve.
She's having fun.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's really, really cool.
All right. We had a really good comment we actually wanted to talk about from, we don't want to keep bringing this up, but the niece case study that we did. Someone asked, how can people prevent falling into a mindset like niece? Is this a result of spamming games and giving yourself the wrong mental notes? And when you make a mistake?
Yeah, I want to say, I think that, a lot of this, it actually really does come down to expectation. Expectation in terms of your current skill level, expectation with how you perceive your journey going to be, and expectation on limits of time, what rank you need to be by a particular date. And even expectations of just your own everything, literally on every aspect of your journey.
We talk about a lot about expectations of friends, especially friends that have just rocketed up and stuff like that.
And in his case, it could have also been added pressure from the community and his fan base. And maybe, I think he put a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation on himself. And we know, and if anyone, and this is not even just tied to league, I think, if there's a lot of expectation on you to deliver something in real life, whether it be at work, whether it be another traditional sport, whatever it might be, deliver that excellent meal you're cooking for your partner, it can sometimes affect your output. And so in league, because the margins are so small and you need to keep that intensity and focus, and it's about consistency. League is solo queue climbing is about consistency. Expectations are nasty, really, really nasty.
Especially short-term ones, right? So long-term, this is the biggest mantra of our podcast. Long-term. Right. And we talked always how the rank system rewards long-term players.
Rewards consistency and process. It rewards consistency of just your level of play. Really what it is. You don't need to be fancy. You need to consistently do your job, have playing champions that you have champion mastery with, and find a process that works for you. Not everyone's process is the same. You might want to review after blocks, before blocks. You might want to do all your reviews on one day. I mean, there's no formula here. You got to find what works for you. But that is a form of consistency, because as we know, even in real life with schedule, it allows you to replicate your performance each day, right? If I go to the gym at this time of the day, I wake up at this time of the day, I have this sort of meal, it allows you to replicate your performance day in, day out, whether it be at work or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so this person as well, I'm not sure if there's a long-time listener of the podcast, but that's what our entire podcast is basically about, right? So the process we've developed, go watch our ranked guide.
And I think, the season 13 ranked guide will be really good, because there's a section in there talking about solo queue contract. And I think solo queue contract is a really pragmatic, actionable tool that you can even write out for yourself. You can literally write it out, what the solo queue contract is going to be. And that is a great tool for managing expectations.
Sets expectations.
It just puts it all out there, no bullshit. And then when you have it there, it's like, well, yeah, that actually makes sense. I didn't get my role this game, my champion's weak in the meta or whatever it might be. And then it's just a matter of, oh yeah, I was expecting that. And managing expectations of teammates. That is a huge one. I have multiple articles right now in the Midland Academy about managing expectations. One of which is managing expectations of yourself, but one of them is literally targeted on managing expectations of teammates. That one is extremely common.
Yes.
Expectations of teammates. Because what happens is that without you realizing, a common thing I've noticed is that people hold others in their team to their standard, right? And if you're trying to push and you're genuinely trying to improve, chances are your standard is actually significantly higher than those around you. And even, again, extending to life, you can't hold everyone around you to the exact same standards. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable 24/7. You can't do that. You have to just stay in your lane, manage your expectations.
Laser focused on what you can control.
Laser focus on what that is another big one that will help your mental and your relationship with the game. But yeah, a lot of this is covered in the solo queue contract. So I think that video, you're spot on, that will answer a lot of your questions. This actually segues very nicely into one of the things I wanted to talk about today, which was I had a client and he plays Cassante mid. And basically what happened is that he had a series of rough games, 3 or 4 games, or maybe it's 2 blocks or something, whatever it might be. And I'm not sure if they were unlucky games or hard games. You just get some tough blocks, like you lose a 40-minute game or 2 40-minute games, or you throw at Baron, and they can be taxing, mentally taxing. And what happened is that he had these rough games, close games, and he carried this mental baggage and kind of he carried this pain from these past games into his future games, and this mental baggage changed the way he played.
What was the time frame of this out of curiosity?
Yeah, it was like within a day or 2, right?
There you go.
And so what happened, he comes into review, he said, Kurt, we looked at this game, right?
Yeah.
And we did a review together. This was after this tough 3, 4, 5, 6 games, whatever it was. And he found himself making basic mistakes that are very uncharacteristic of this specific player. You wouldn't, because I've done reviews with seen his Cassante before. This is not typically what I've seen. And, we get into it. And really what it was he literally altered his gameplay and his mindset based off that mental baggage. He carried that mental baggage from those past blocks into his future blocks. And so what the conclusion that we came to is that he wasn't coherent in these games. He was trying to do too much to make up in his mind, because he has to win these games. Surely he has to do something different in these games because what he's done in the past hasn't worked. Right. But in reality, what he doesn't realize is that you can just get unlucky in the short term. You can't jump to these conclusions and change your playstyle and your mindset and what has worked in the past at the drop of a coin or whatever. You can't do that. And so the conclusion I came to, and the message that I want to push here, is that we all have rough blocks, frustrating blocks. You might even have 2 frustrating blocks in a row. Shit happens, and they do happen. And I guarantee you they will happen at some point. You need to let go and make peace with those blocks before you move on.
Reflection.
Reflection. That's what we talk about, reflection. We spoke about this in the Rank 13.
That's why
as well.
I love just playing 1 3 block in a day, because you just don't overcomplicate things.
That's what I'm trying to tell you for ages.
I know, for ages.
It's really, really good.
Because otherwise you start switching stuff and the narratives just become really drilled up real quick, and then you start switching pools.
That's right. Like if you do 1 solid 3 or 4 block a day, you can address those. And again, this is what I love, having that little bit of reflection, whether it's before your block the next day, whether it's in the shower that night, whatever it might be, just reflect and make peace with what's happened. And that's why the review is so important, because the review allows you to be like, okay, what actually happened here? And if you're honest with it and you actually look at it for what it is, it allows you to move on. But if you don't look and you don't get specific, you will go insane.
Yeah. Going back to Nicole's journey, I have it written down here about all her season ranks. Imagine doing 1 3 block a day for 12 years and reflect on every single one of them, how would
The
you
amount
not
of
get
progress
results?
that you would make would be unbelievable.
It's like building strength in the gym. You're just strength about your knowledge, your muscle, building the strength. We talk about muscle memory in the game so much, and figuring out how your champion interacts with all the other champions. It's just it does pay.
It does pay
dividends.
But yeah, like I think moving forward, guys, so if any of you found yourself in that situation, please address that frustration and however you want to do it. Some people, sometimes you just go to the gym, smash it out, and you vent it out on the machines or whatever. Some people, you just need to reflect, journal entry. Some people need to review their games. They
Get someone else to review.
A coach, or bring it to a session, or ask a friend. However you need to do it, you must do it though, because you can ruin future games and then go down a very slippery slope if you don't address it. That's right. What I want to get across.
I love that.
Did you want to cover the thing on Reddit now?
Yep, we can move on to that. So we're still going to do I think we talked about this in our Reddit Christmas episode about, we want to sort of have, because, this podcast is all about the community.
A bit more presence and be a bit more aware of what's happening on specifically Summoner School.
Summoner School, because that's obviously like the main educational Reddit. So we'll just pull up some posts. We're just going to do one today. The title of this one is it possible to get diamond in 5 months? And the post is, so got upvotes, about 240 upvotes. And he goes, hi, I recently made a bet with my friend that I could reach diamond in 5 months. I'm bronze after placements, and I play mid with Cassio, Vlad, Ryze, and Oriana. Depends on the mood. Sounds very close to your champion, Morgotis. If this would be it, I would also said it is impossible, but I'm actually a Dota player with over 5k hours, and I reached Divine, best rank, same as Diamond in League. I also played League before, around 200 hours. I think I have some key skills that you need, plus I'm really dedicated to no life and just play League, and also learning. Is it possible with these circumstances to reach Diamond? All my friends say it's impossible, but I think they don't know that Dota is also super hard, and I could transform some of these skills into League. But if you think it's impossible, I won't waste 5 months of my life and give up.
That's it.
Yeah, just tell me about it, guys. Should I give up or not? So we're gonna help.
Listen to Reddit.
We're gonna help. What's his name? His name is N No You Baddie.
That's a lot of time to just dedicate. Yeah. If someone says no, all right, fine, I won't do it.
So how about we answer this question from a no gaming background standpoint?
Yeah,
you just started playing League. Is it possible to get diamond in 5 months?
You mean no gaming background before League?
Yep.
Impossible.
Right?
Impossible. Because it would take you a few months just to get your head around the champions and the items and the feel of the game, what damage output the champions do. Especially nowadays, like Diamond nowadays, Season 13, comparatively to say Season 4, 3, it's very competitive.
It's hugely different.
Like there are great, there are still... Like even to get to gold, there are solid gold players.
Yep.
Right? There are solid gold players that really know their limits and just lose because they take too much risk. But they know they probably have, some of them actually have pretty good hands, honestly. So yeah, I would say that the days of just having good hands and getting to D4 are kind of over. You can't really do that anymore. Unless you're really good, yeah.
But if you have really good hands, typically you've
already played a lot of the game.
Yeah, you sort of have a good idea. You got lots of muscle memory there in terms of the game. Right.
So first of all, if you had no gaming background, impossible.
Yeah. So what would that journey look like? So we said, I think we've said this in
so it'd be 0 to 30 and bots and normals Season 1.
So year one.
That's a year one, right? That's what I would recommend, actually. Just taking it slow, getting plenty of normal games, plenty of bot games, trying to figure out what role you play, what champs you like, and no ranked. Season 2 would be ranked. Now you know your role, you know your champs, and then you get to you could probably get to gold. And then this is again speaking through experience with someone who has had no league background and no coaching. And then the next season, plat 4. Maybe mid-plat, and then after that, it really depends.
Yeah,
it really depends.
Yep.
But in his case, he said he's played 200 hours of League. I don't know what that equivalent.
We'll say about maybe 30 minutes a game. So let's say he's played about 400 games.
Okay. And then I'm assuming he's never played ranked before. Maybe.
No.
So
He's played Dota with 5,000 hours of Dota and reached
well,
Diamond
okay.
in
So
Dota.
we've seen people who've played Dota. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, and other games to a high level, StarCraft and Dota, and they've struggled. They've struggled. I've seen people that were good at Dota and struggled pretty hardcore and were in gold for a long time. And conversely, I've seen some Dota players that cross over and are really good. I remember, I mean, I'm not going to name names here because for other personal reasons, but I've heard of people and stories of ex-pro Dota players coming and playing League and then having a lot of success with League basically from the get-go.
Yep.
So I've seen it from both sides. And again, that depends on gaming, how talented they are and things like that, how dedicated they are, how much of a growth mindset they have, how curious they are. Because let's say that person played Dota for 6 years, or like maybe started as a kid and actually didn't really know how they got good. That's very different to someone who actually really understood the learning journey and got there with a growth mindset and wasn't actually talented and grinded there. So you know what I mean? So there's kind of like there's ways to get to that specific rank.
So you're sort of saying that like a Dota player that was really young was playing, but just built muscle memory just from sheer
that's
thousand
right.
hours of it. Again, didn't really conceptualize the game or study the game.
Was a very intuitive player and kind of got it. Is very different to someone that maybe picked up the game later and got there. So look, there's probably some missing background information. I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to say it is possible, but it's just very unlikely.
It's very hard.
So yes, it is possible.
With the level that Diamond's at these days.
Yes, it's just very hard.
Again, like season 4, I reckon that player will get Diamond pretty easily.
Yep.
I would say
Nowadays,
definitely doable.
it's like really, really, really hard.
Yep.
But I'm not going to say it's impossible.
Nope.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that pretty much answers. I'm just looking at the comments. Hey, people, I think they're pretty much saying the same. Saying,
let's see what I would love to hear what the community thinks. Because people in the BBC, they've heard us say a lot of things. Given what they know about the game and their experiences, maybe people they know. What do you guys think? And do you have any of you guys had any friends or people that you know of who've picked up the game like that, and how much experience or what was their journey like? It'd be very interesting to hear. I want to talk about a very interesting situation with a client that some people might resonate with. So essentially, this guy, his name's JIW. He sent me this video because it's, I prefer video format when getting long questions. And essentially, I'm going to break down, summarize this video for you. So he currently plays Akali, Yasuo, Yone. Clear assassin identity. He took a break in the preseason for 1 month and did a lot of self-reflection, a lot of deep diving. And he realized he was trying to be as honest as possible with himself. And he realized that his champ pool's not working out. And what he realized was that he actually doesn't like the champions he plays. He was tricking himself into liking the champions that he plays. And,
do you know why?
Yeah, and this is what he said. So he said what happened is that when he was younger and played the game, because he's played the game for quite a while, he did initially kind of like Yasuo and stuff. And that's what he put a lot of time into. And that's what he thought that was the best for climbing. But then because he put so much time into Yasuo and Akali, etc., and created this assassin identity, he couldn't, he kind of basically tricked himself and deluded himself into thinking that that's what he genuinely liked about the game. But when he was really, really honest with himself, the only reason he was staying with that champion pool is because he was scared to go back to scratch and actually play what he truly liked, and which he, now being honest with himself, he's a mage player. He loves mages. And so it's very interesting, isn't it? Because it's interesting because we don't want to imagine like all the muscle memory and the amount of games and mastery that he's played with those champions. To completely reinvent yourself as a player is scary.
It's like lost time. It's really scary.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the longer it goes, it's like the sunk cost fallacy. I was like, wow, if I played Yone for 5 years,
so much in this, I got to double down.
I got to double down. But he's realized that he's at a plateau point where he can't bring himself to get to the next level because he fundamentally doesn't enjoy the champions. And so what he wants to do is reinvent himself. He wants to be a mage player, and he never did it because he thought that he was going to be bad at it as well. He was worried that he was going to be bad at it. And so now he's made the commitment. He wants to become a mage player.
What was the narratives around Do you ask him why he thought he'll be bad at it?
No,
It's just because he's spent so much time on those type of champs,
he
like
said
melee
it was
champs.
because he said it was multiple things. He says he already put so much time into those champions, and that's what he deluded himself into thinking that like those were the best champs for climbing, like carry assassins. And he did get a moderate amount of success with it, but I think he's like Diamond 4 or something. But to make that push to go above, and just being honest with himself, he just can't. He just realized he's not. Yeah. That's not what he likes about the game. Yeah. And so it really was just come from just sunk cost fallacy. He put all that time in and he doesn't, and he was worried that because he created this narrative that he's bad at mages and good at assassins. It just
takes so long to undone. It's not just
right.
He has to learn these champions. He has to undo like that way of fighting.
He has to and he also has to undo the narrative that he's bad at mages.
Yeah.
That's actually just bullshit. He's just told himself that probably at some point for whatever reason. And he's just tricked himself into believing that to the point where he's literally played champions he doesn't even like for multiple years, which is really sad, really. And he was quite like upset because he feel like he's wasted all this time, right? And so he basically, but now he's really, okay, I know it's going to be hard, he said, and I know my elo is going to suffer significantly. So he's managed his expectations beautifully. Right. And he said, okay, what champs should he play? How does he find out what he likes? What is your step one? And he says, I've got no short-term ambitions. I'm full long-term. So he said, if it takes me, because he wants to get challenger, he says, if it takes me 4 or 5 years, so be it. Like he's literally thinking really mega long-term. And so basically I gave him my response and told him, you got to now go into normal games, and I want you to really take your time here. Play every champ, every mage. See what you like. Take your time. And
he doesn't really have an idea of which champion. He just wants to learn mages.
I said literally about 10 games of every mage. And he's got a spreadsheet, and he's got and he's going to give it a rating after 10 games. Like, which one's clicking with him, which one does he like, and which one does he want to investigate? And I said, okay, if you can narrow it down to like maybe 7 or 8 champs, then I can create a pool from that with you, and we can go deep on, pick one of them, go deep down that rabbit hole, and then create your identity from there. And I said, that's it. We just got to start from scratch. And he's willing to do that. So I thought that was a really interesting story because it makes you wonder how many people are out there who are committing to champions purely because they played them from a young age and they've been playing the game for quite a while, but they've changed. Their view of the game has changed. We all change as people, and what you initially like I loved artillery mages. I can't stand playing artillery mages in solo queue right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. We just changed the way we enjoy the game. So for those of you out there who maybe this story resonates with you guys, you got to do that reflection. And again, why was that possible? He took the time to be honest with himself. Again, tying back to my favorite David Goggins quote, the most important conversation you have is the one you have with yourself. And he was honest with himself, did that deep dive reflection. And as painful as it was, in the long run, it's probably going to pay. I mean, not probably, it will pay off.
I'll tell you what, you don't underestimate how when you have fun playing a certain champion or style, you can learn really quick. When I started learning Vi for my guide in December, I've been playing the game for as a jungler for 10 years, guys. Well, I mean on and off for 10 years, but I'd never touched Vi. You know me, I've never really played Vi.
Never known you as a Vi player.
And I picked it up so quick. I was just loving the champ, but I never thought I would enjoy this champ. I just thought it wasn't for me.
But it wasn't until you gave it a go.
Yeah, I gave it a go, but it was really quick. Yeah, I gave it a go, and it doesn't take that much time to give things a go, I feel like.
That's what I actually reassured him in the video. I said, dude,
you didn't
waste time. That 5 years, trust me, you've still learned a shit ton about the game. Yeah. And I'm optimistic with him as well. I think it's, I don't want to hype him up saying it won't take long, because I think it's good to be on the other side of expectations. Like, okay, it's going to take me 5 years, because then anything above that, anything better than that is just going to be a surprise. And that's great. It's easier to manage that way. It's easier, your relationship with the game is just going to be better.
It's really important. That relationship with the game is so important. Yeah, now Vi is it's one of my main champs. I'm more confident in my Vi than my challenger Rek'Sai last season.
When I'm versing you right now, I'm more worried. Yeah, by far, I'm more worried about your Vi than your Rek'Sai, 100%.
And that's in a span of a month.
Crazy.
Crazy. So yeah, I was shocked myself. I think Vi's like that. It's definitely not that much of a...
But it's not overly complicated, of course.
Yeah, she's not very overly complicated, but I mean, obviously I have to make the guide, so
but still, the process of learning it, regardless, was just sped up by your enjoyment of the champion, is what you're saying.
It was fantastic.
I do have one just little thing as well, one little quick thing I'd like to talk about. Okay, so I had a review this morning with Grinder, long-term client. Love doing reviews with him. He's literally every week. Master tier comes every week.
He's dedicated.
We do reviews.
Dedicated
We
Midland
literally
Academy
do reviews
member.
every week, right?
Yeah.
And he said to me, because I'm making these these mistakes that I deem to be basic, right?
Yes,
and
love these.
and like he looks at it in the review and he's like, I just know this. Like I know I shouldn't do this. Like in the review, it's very obvious to him, right? And what I said is, I said this: if you find yourself making quote unquote basic mistakes, chances are it's actually a lull state problem. So hear me out, right? So let's say there was a play where he's playing Renekton. He's playing.
Can we
Renekton
quickly define lull states for people that are
so
new?
lull state is essentially a period in the game where you're not occupied by something immediately in front of you. Like you're not fighting, you're not doing anything, and you can think bigger picture about the game.
So it's like walking out of base.
Yeah, walking out of base, buying your items,
Pushing
while
a
you're dead.
wave.
Yeah, in between waves. So the way I define it actually in the Midland Academy is major lull states and miniature lull states. So miniature lull states are things like in between waves, and then we have the major lull states like going to recalling when you're on your death screen or whatever it might be, right? And so what I said is that, okay, if you find yourself making basic mistakes that you genuinely believe to be like, I know this, and I'm looking at it in the review, and I shouldn't be making this mistake.
Or I've worked on this in the past and now it's come up again. Like I thought I fixed it and now I'm making the same mistakes again.
Chances are it is a lull state problem. So hear me out. So there was a situation where he played this. He like played this fight really poorly, where he like rushed his E and wasted abilities, and it's stuff he knows, right? And looking in the review, it's very obvious. It's like, I should just kind of do blah 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 blah. And I said, well, did you really identify, like coming out of base as you're walking to this fight, were you really processing the information? And like when we're getting into it, and there was like 3 probably moments in that VOD, it was very clear that he wasn't using his lull states that well. And we had a conversation off camera earlier on where if you are clear about your role in a composition, or you're clear about what you believe the win con to be, or you're clear about your role in fights, you'd be surprised at how consistent your skirmishing is going to be and how consistent your decision making is going to be. I found even in my own gameplay, I only make dumb mistakes when I'm just not calibrating. I'm not using those lull states to, like, what am I doing? What am I here to do in this game? And it was a bit of a wake up call. Yeah, you're right. I'm actually not processing basic pieces of information, like where's my team? What's my role in this comp? Who's my win con? And when you process that information in your lull states, people think that, oh yeah, you're just going to make better macro decisions. No, that's one aspect of it. You're going to make better skirmishing decisions because, again, League is a game of anticipation. And so when you're entering that fight, if you already know, oh, yep, that's who I need to be targeting, that's who I need to be afraid of, this person's fed on my team, that is going to seep into your intuition and you're going to subconsciously alter your decision making. So lull state usage is very powerful, not just for the basics of macro and threat assessment, but also it impacts your skirmishing and just basic decision making very significantly.
Very important. It actually reminds me, I had 2 back-to-back games against Jacob. He's like another Grandmaster player in OC and Soltu. And I literally went to do a bot gank or a play bot or like an invade or something, and I died to the mid lane move first twice in a row back to back. And this is a mistake I deem as unacceptable for a challenger player or a player that I feel like I should be. And I feel like I've fixed this mistake a lot. And you're exactly right. Like I'm just going to my red buff, and for some reason I'm just not looking at mid at all. Like not even thinking about that situation where that's something that I always used to do, you know. And then I was really quick to turn that around. It's like 2 back-to-back. I even said to Jacob, like, this is really embarrassing. And because he just straight up won those 2. I just gifted him 2 free wins, basically. I thought I was angry. I didn't make him work for the games as well. And then, yeah, bam, fixed, and there you go.
Lull state usage, very powerful.
And then I think the next couple of games, I just literally just full cleared and didn't go for those aggressive plays because the enemy mid had first move. And wow, whoop-de-doo, the game's much easier.
Much easier.
You know?
Lull state usage just a daily reminder.
Yeah.
Weekly reminder. Anything else you want to cover before we get into mailbag?
Let's jump into mailbag. Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. First question here is from Gina. The title of this email is Defining Fun in the Improvement Process. Hello, BBCers. Curtis and Nathan. My name is Gina, and I emailed this show before about being addicted to Duo. I've mostly stopped duoing, except in relaxed normal games. What I'm writing about today isn't about that, though. It is about how we define fun in the improvement process. I had a discovery that changed the way I look at fun in this game, especially in the improvement process, and I think that you might be able to use this for some insightful discussion. I've been working to improve my Kai'Sa ADC because I believe that I had found the champion fun when I made an important realization. What I found fun was not improving with Kai'Sa or losing and struggling with Kai'Sa. Rather, what I found fun was dominating with Kai'Sa, which would happen rarely. I did further reflection and found this to be the true of the entire role of ADC. I didn't have a hunger to grow, but rather a hunger to win and dominate and make cool highlight outplays. The kind of player I was becoming because of this was an awful and tilted person, and I'd especially turn that towards myself, calling myself vile things. If I started to lose or made a mistake or some way to fail to match my very high expectations, I would burn the pain of that mistake in me, so I would learn from it, but I found that to be unsustainable and bad for my mental. From this realization, I found that I had to look deep inside and think about what was fun for me, even if I was losing. What I wanted to improve on and test myself with instead of what I wanted to win with. I'm still not entirely sure if I've found that yet, but I have had a great deal more fun losing and improving with Talia mid than I ever did with ADC. I do not know if it is because I've never seen Talia mid played at a high level, and so I don't have the expectation to match that level of play, or if it's because I'm excited to learn an entirely new champion and role, or even if it's genuinely the most fun for me yet. I suppose I'll find that out with time. While I am figuring that out for myself... Okay, so let's answer that question first, because that's insights. I definitely think the whole Talia thing, that could be the honeymoon phase. All right? The honeymoon period.
Fun is weird. It's a weird one,
isn't it? Because some people, I think, with AD carry could have like genuine just fun, just wanting to dominate every game. But again, you can't do that every game. So again, the expectation is...
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Because we talked a lot about expectations, how they're dangerous, right? And now,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense why that wouldn't really be sustainable, right?
No.
It reminds me of Daniel and his comment about, I just want to play good. I expect myself to play good every game. I'm like, well, what is good? And he's like, don't die to any gangs, so perfectly CS, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, that's an excellent game.
I didn't know Daniel was a challenger player.
I thought you said he scared me.
Oh, no. No.
Yeah, exactly. If you were doing that,
he's platinum, right? And he's expected to be a challenger player.
If you were doing that, you'd be a challenger player.
Yes.
And so, he was having a good game, like 1 in every 25 games. So that's not sustainable, right? And that sounds very similar to her situation where, you can have those pop-off games, but if that's the only thing motivating you, you're going to have dry streaks. It actually reminds me, tying back to the Andrew Huberman thing on dopamine, you need to start to rewire your brain in the way that if you are completely chasing that end result, it will not be sustainable, because the way the dopamine's wired is you require more and more, you can't rely on getting that one dopamine spike because it just wears off and your body becomes kind of like used to it or whatever.
You build like a tolerance.
Yeah, and so you need to learn to become motivated for an extended period of time. You actually need to learn to love the process and learn the journey of learning and the process of getting those games in. So if you're purely motivated by the end result, that's why it's just not sustainable. That's also why Andrew Huberman, in his podcast on dopamine, he speaks about how if you're solely motivated by going out on the weekend, and that is it, and you've got like no enjoyment throughout the week, or you don't enjoy the grind or whatever it might be, then you get burnout. And that's where there's a lot of people get burnout. Like they can do that for a set amount of time and then they just crash and burn.
Because their dopamine
receptors are completely just fried, essentially. So that makes sense why for her that wasn't really sustainable. But tying back to the conversation of fun, I really struggled to give a clear definition of what I perceive fun to be, because I think it's subjective. And I think what you find fun about the game is highly personal. I think for some people, they actually like to play champions that are mechanically expressive. Other people just love the combos, and other people love the the nature of the champion, like how you're a supportive style. Like I think there's many aspects, many categories that you can enjoy a champion for.
I mean, it's a great example for me, right? My playstyle, the way I play jungle, I'm not a carry jungler at all.
No.
I love playing the more supportive, but just doing my job. With our producer Charlie always looks at my games like, Nathan, like, how do you play? Like, he loves the opposite style. He likes playing the Diana and carrying and all that sort of stuff.
But the more I've played, I've gotten progressively more confused about what I actually like.
About the game.
No, about what champ specifically, because every time I play a champion for a guide and I expect to not like them, I end up loving them. Like with Jonah specifically, right? The first time I played Jonah, I just had the wrong approach and the wrong mindset, so it didn't work. And I didn't like it. Now, when I did the guide with Tim and Ajax really helped me and they gave me the right mindset and I was able to understand builds and how they interacted with the slight shifts in identity, I love that champion.
So it became fun because you just have more knowledge.
Yeah, and it was like it kind of all clicked together. And so I think for me, what I've realized is that I think I loved League initially for the champions. And I got a lot of fun from the champions, but the more I played the game, the more I just get fun from League of Legends itself and the game. I think for me, I just find just a creative expression and just laning and decision making to be fun.
Yeah, I love when it gets to mid game and there's just got like, okay, this guy's pushing and resetting the flow. It's really fun.
I think that's what I think I find the flow state fun. Yeah. I think that's really what it is.
Yeah.
That feeling of just where your mastery and your experience and your focus and everything clicks and you're just in this state of pure just like playing. You're not thinking about the result. You're not thinking about real life. You're just purely immersed. It's like being immersed in an amazing film. That's what it's like. That's the feeling. But it's even better than that because you're in it. You're literally doing it.
And it's a competitive environment.
And it's a competitive environment. So it's kind of like everything tying together. Like, for example, we played that game recently and then Nathan was dominating and they push our I think it was like 30 minutes and you break our inhib.
It was 22 minutes actually.
Was it 22 minutes?
We had Baron, because I had Baron and Herald.
You had Baron and Herald.
And if you could only I got Herald 19 minutes, it was the last.
And you broke the bot.
We're going to do a whole push. We're going to win the game.
And then I think someone overextends or something and had a Yumi on me. I'm playing Cassio and then we just kill them all. And at that moment, I just
Curtis is unleashed.
Yeah, and I have so much fun. Now I'm like a 3-item Casio, and I'm just in the flow state. I'm not thinking about the result at all. I'm just like, I just want to kill people and fight. But I think that's what happens naturally. The more you play you play League, you when you appreciate the game of League, eventually you start to just love the game and the way it's designed, the way it flows. But again, this is all highly personal. So again, I think she makes a good point though about chasing that one game isn't sustainable.
That one type, because that's not how League works.
That's right. If you're only chasing that, the League will probably be a very unfun game, actually.
I mean, she said that that's true for the entire ADC role, but I don't think that's true at all. You can play, you got to adapt in games as an ADC. It's part of the job of climbing, right? Like, you're going to get weak-sided. You're going to...
Again,
people might enjoy the aspect of the feeling of that's the way I like to play fights. I like just to doing lots of damage.
Yeah, but honestly, I can't really comment. I don't have any experience with playing AD carry.
Yeah, I don't know.
So again, I can't resonate. Maybe that is the case. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know.
All right, next question here is from Jonah. This is actually talking about his pre-season process moving into the season, what he did. So, morning gamers, Jonah from Soul2 here. So he's one of our Soul2 members. Just wanted to write in to share how I use the preseason to find my process as we are into the new season currently. Joined Soul2 in June of 2000 last year, going from Gold 3 to Platinum 2 with very little process and relying heavily on Nathan's reviews of my games to improve. I'd say 90% of my review process was Nathan's weekly review sessions. So it's pretty much just relying on review sessions. Actually, sort of to that point, that's actually, it's definitely a little bit dangerous to do that, because it's sort of like the teacher giving you all the answers, or you're just showing up to and saying that that's your process. I find that actually might be a little bit common with.
I've noticed that in the MLA as well. The only clients that should genuinely be getting weekly reviews are Master Plus clients. If you're below Master, you shouldn't be getting weekly reviews, because you need to be the problems aren't that complicated.
We're here to give you a general direction, but you're going to be doing your process and really critically thinking and practicing and failing.
I've noticed this. There are people. So we have a VOD questions channel in my Discord, the Midland Academy, and essentially the way it works is that you can send a clip of a situation, and then either myself or Tim or Sohail or whatever will break it down, and it's like a review of one specific thing, right? Yeah. And then there are players that use it well and will like ask high quality questions every now and then. And then you get people who kind of ask consistently. And I'm worried that those players, it's like I feel like I'm babying them, and I'm worried that if I'm not there, what are they going to do? And they become too reliant. So yeah, there are very real dangers to that in the long term.
So he goes on to say, I collected 15 points of data. So he had a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. I might get the spreadsheet linked up on the, but we won't get into much into that. So he has these main data points: time, music, focus, and when I review. So those are the things that he's measuring.
Okay.
From 7th December to 5th of January, I played 29 3 blocks. I graded each of them on a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being low focus and 3 being in flow state. A majority of the blocks received a 2 as I was focused, but something would distract me at the point during my block. Surprisingly, I gave 8 blocks a perfect score. So I'm achieving flow state, getting in the zone about a third of the time. A quick review of my notes show a pretty direct correlation between my comfort level in a game and how focused and in the zone I become. Off-roll games, a laner die into an early gank, etc. immediately put me in a state of full focus, but I cannot rely on that to access the flow state. The data I collected tells me that my best performances were usually in the morning between 9 and 11 a.m. with light music playing before I go to the gym, with reviews happening between my games. I also found that playing before going to the gym helps to decrease my chances of self-sabotage. I force a hard stop at 3 games and go lift immediately. If I lift pre-block, then I am prone to playing a 4th game or finding a 2nd block much later in the day. TLDR, the 3-block process works and can be tailor-fit to everyone. Just because the recommended setup of 3 games with reviews in between works for me doesn't mean it works for everyone. I highly recommend people to run the same study on themselves to set themselves up for great season 2023.
So he said something there about the games that he was able to achieve that perfect max focus. Was it someone making a mistake? Like, what was it exactly?
That's what he said. He said off-roll games.
So off-roll games...
A laner dying to an early gank. Yeah, and then a laner...
So it's kind of like he's recognizing early on in the game that
the game might be hard, so
he
gonna
has to really focus, and he can't really afford to make a mistake, which is really interesting because I feel like that's where personality difference comes into play. Because I think there are some people that would
just start checking out a little bit,
panic, or maybe they don't play well under pressure, and it's the other way, it has the opposite effect. So it's very interesting that he made that observation.
Well, definitely, I have many members in Soul 2 that get really far ahead and they just autopilot, just a really basic mistake. So they're definitely not in the zone.
I'm going to tell you a horror story.
Yeah,
personal experience, and this was so painful that this is so painful that I'm not going to make this mistake for the rest of the year. That it was that bad. So I had a Jonah versus Cassidy game.
Yeah,
I played the early wave perfectly. Shove, bounce, set up a gank, win an early 2v2. Unlosable game from my perspective. My top lane Vlad dominating the 1v1.
So you got 2 hard winning lanes.
And I think even bot was doing okay. They were just minimizing. And the Kassadin, because I killed him, burnt his flash, the wave was bouncing out. He's level 5. He can't get level 6 without dying to me because I get level 6 first. So what does he do? He gives up. He runs bot and just lanes bot with the bot lane and AD carry, right? AD carries the bot and sits there for like a good minute. And I'm just freezing mid. So I'm up like at least a whole level at this point. And in which the case that he forces the enemy AD carrying support with him to come up the river and break the freeze. So their bot lane and him come up and get the wave out. And right at this point, I'm like, oh, this guy's a troll. He's given up. Like, I'm up like a level and a half or something.
So he's given up.
I solo killed him. He has no flash. He's like a tier Cassid, and I've got like a pickaxe and double dagger. I'm killing it at Berserker. I'm really strong. And then what happens is I get complacent. And then the wave starts to come out, and I would never ever make this mistake. I just walk up without my E, like really close to the tower, and just die to a basic gank. And I was so angry at myself. Like, I'm like, I get nothing from that. And then Cassidy gets a shutdown or whatever. He gets like a small shutdown and then like gets the wave out and now the game's like evened out. And I was just in a bad mindset from that point. I couldn't recover. I didn't recover well. And then the cherry on top here, I start to bring it back and I'm like, okay, I got to get my shit together. I'm like, still doing it. We can win this game, but it's a tough game. They had a Cassidy, like a hyperscaling comp. And then my internet goes out for a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And then I come back and then I'm just so frazzled mentally. And then
there's no way you're getting back into the zone.
Mentally, I lost it. I lost the flow state and then I'm out. So there was 2 moments where I had my flow state, lost it because of him giving up, and that I'm like, what are you doing? Like it was like a way of, it was me giving up because he gave up in a way, and then the second time was the internet, and I just couldn't check back in. We just lost, it was funny. I was in the Discord and we're doing the review, and I'm like, guys, this is a write-off. Get me the hell out of this review. There's not like the takeaway here has nothing to do with the in-game. It's pure mental, and this is such a tough lesson that can happen to anybody. And now my mantra it's a reminder because I've had, this happens before, right? But it's like a reminder. It happens once every 6 months or 10 months or whatever it might be. You have that one game where you take the foot off the pedal, foot off the gas. And because you take the foot off the gas, you don't play how you would normally play and you lose. And those are the most painful losses.
You know, it's so funny because you always need to be reminded that those games never go away. They're a constant reminder to never check out until the Nexus. You never check out until the Nexus is exploded.
That's right. Ever.
Yeah.
And I think there's a yearly reminder for me. I have like one a year or something, and then
I have way more than that. I have one every couple of weeks, dude. Yeah.
That is so painful. I cannot let that happen.
Yeah.
Oh, they're brutal. They're really brutal. Because you know it's all on you. And there's nothing to learn.
No.
It's just terrible.
So from Jonah, so that's a really good example of the 3-block process working. I want to mention about finding the time of the day that you play at your best. I think it's really important because, you know, obviously people have work schedules, school and stuff like that. I have people in Sol 2 that they love playing before work or school. They actually get up, they change their schedule to go to sleep way earlier, and then they get up and play 3 games or something like that, like 6 a.m. or whatever, which I think is really cool. For me personally, I think you for as well, it's just the afternoon, right, for us, but because we wake up a bit earlier.
But I will make one comment about this, though, what I've noticed.
O'clock, yeah.
So I coach from 1 till 3, and then there's things I need to do. I need to upload the VODs. I need to take my notes for the coaching findings, right? If I skip that and I get off and I, you know, whatever, usually clean up the kitchen or something, come back and I go straight into my block and think, I'll just do the other stuff later. I always play worse and are less focused. But when I take the time to get that stuff out of the way, like get the VODs uploaded, take my notes, you know, answer the DMs that need to be answered, then I jump into my block, I just have clarity.
Yeah, once everything's ticked off.
And that's just my personality. Yeah. I can't do something that, knowing in the back of my mind, after this, I got to do that. Because then my schedule's so much cleaner, because then I can go straight from, you know, 3-block with reviews straight into dinner. And it's just such like a smooth transition. But then I have to go 3-block, do work, and then to dinner. And I think it's that mental baggage of knowing that that's not what I want to do at the end of my block. Prevents me from like kind of staying focused on just playing a great 3-block. So that's a little tidbit that I just learned, even though it's a very similar, it's a small differentiation, but it actually makes a significant difference. So that's why you got to be introspective. You got to listen to your body, listen to your mind, and it's small things that can make all the difference.
It's funny, you were like that in high school as well, right? Then, you had to do your homework before you played the computer.
Yes, every single time.
I was the opposite.
Yeah.
I think I've like
I never understood that.
I have like this thing where you just like, I think it's for someone who's like a procrastinator, like I'm a procrastinator, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, you just pretend it doesn't exist, the thing.
I can't do that.
It's like what you do. It's like a tool.
I'll tell you, you're going to love this story, Nathan. Yeah. When this started in primary school, because we have a gaming family in my growing up. So my dad was a gamer, my brother's I'm a gamer, we're all gamers, right? And so what would happen, this is straight up, the rule in my house growing up, when I was a kid was, you must do your homework before, otherwise you can't play the computer. So literally, this was when I was like 8 years old, right? 10 years old, getting like small bits of math homework, whatever it is in primary school. Instantly, literally, I get in the door, put my bag down, open my bag, get my books, go straight to the table. the dining room table, smash out my homework in like 10 minutes, done, and then straight to the computer. It was like a ritual.
So maybe that's
in our
been
household.
ingrained of an early household.
Yeah, I think it really is just ingrained into me.
Yeah.
So that was my schedule. And then I like, did that for my entire education through high school and university. The exact same mentality. I had to do it now.
Yeah. It's literally like you just, I bet you so many people like who are procrastinators like me, like, God, I wish I had what Curtis had.
No, but it's like, it's sometimes like, to a crazy degree, right? Because it's like stressful. It's like, I got to do it.
Yeah, like you're like stressed about, you like probably the stress, the daily stress that you have to
That's
do
right.
it
It's much higher.
is like maybe higher, but the procrastination,
Productivity is better,
but the procrastination stress at the end is really bad. Like I wonder, like what's
True. It's like yours is later stress, mine's earlier stress, right?
But the later one might be like way higher than like your daily one. It's like you have like manageable stress,
right?
But the procrastinator just has like unhealthy, like you're gonna die like 10 years earlier type stress.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Like
It just shows.
Like the people that get like an essay done like an hour before it's due or something like that.
Okay, I've never understood that. I can't do that.
That's actually super common with gamers. Gamers are procrastinate experts. All right, so we'll do one more here. This one is from Micah. Hi, Nathan and Curtis. I just wanted to ask, how do I go balancing the act of not blaming myself for the entire fault of the game, but not also blaming my teammates for the sole fail of the game? I had a streamer tell me maybe jungling isn't for me, but when I play any other role without a duo, it sometimes feel like I have to be a second jungler for games to really make an impact. I'm at a loss because I feel like I'm not good and will never be good, even though I'm improving, but I guess I'm aiming for goals too high since I started in Season 11, which is just gold and being able to improve my jungle win rate with Eve. I just feel like in my ELO and with my MMR, that I have to do a lot more, which can feel overwhelming sometimes and make me mess up on mechanical things with combos.
Micah, you need to go to the Sol 2. Really that simple.
Yeah.
Like straight up.
We'll fix you up, Micah.
You know, Nathan will get in there. He'll look at your pathing, look at what makes a good gank and a bad gank. And then probably within a month or two, you'll be rock and rolling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, if it sounds like you need help. I straight up. And, but at the end of the day, Micah, believe it or not, even though it's very difficult for you to envision this, you don't need to do that much. But it's hard to know that until you tried it.
You tried it, you feel it.
That's right.
That's what the narrative I always see is that, because one of the things we say, especially for like farming type of junglers, right? What they do is like, let's say if you're like I see this in all the time, like let's say Hecarim players or Udyr players, they full clear, they get a double kill bot, right? And then I say, okay, now we just need to just keep clearing and
don't die. Or you got to not die.
We've created such a huge lead. Like even if our laner dies or two or like something,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because you're so far ahead, right? But then they will go and they skip their second spawn of camps.
Try to do
too much, and they gank, and then they gank again, and then suddenly they're entire, and then it's 6 minutes in the game, and they're still level 4 or something like that.
So the philosophy I tell people here is when you've got a lead, you take less risk.
Less risk, that's right. Yeah.
Because you'll just outpace your ahead in power spikes. You'll clear camps faster in your case. In mid, you'll just slowly win trades. You'll win 2v2s. You don't need to do anything fancy. Typically, the game will just be handed to you on a platter as long as you do your job and have good fundamentals.
So what that is as well is a shift of understanding how the game works. And it's not about kills. It's about experience and gold.
Yep.
So that's what newer players, it's hard to grasp because obviously
you don't feel it. I don't want to feel
the reward system in League. Yeah, that's true. If you kill people, you win the game.
Yeah.
But that's actually not true in the higher sense of League of Legends.
Or you're getting kills to get experience and gold, really. Right? And so if you're it's like, okay, I can get this guaranteed experience in gold here by clearing these camps. And especially if they don't know what makes a good gank and a bad gank, that can go very downhill very quickly.
Because there's ganks that you can do that require so much resources, so much time.
High value kill, low value kill as well.
You've actually just completely ruined the game. And if you were just hitting your camps, it would have been doing less actually helps you.
And a classic example, I'm assuming as a jungler would be like they're clearing, they've got camps up and they see a kill bot, but it's like, oh, like, okay, I can probably kill, but I might take a lot of damage and I might have to recall after. And it's like, well, yeah, you say it takes you 12 seconds to get that kill, and then you have to reset. And they're probably not worth that much. Maybe they're already 0-2, but you could have already cleared those camps. You're full HP. You can just, boom, boom, boom. You can do all these other things. You got to weigh that up, right? So I think really what Micah needs to do is he needs to get coaching, follow like a set structure that you'll probably put in place for him, teach him what a good gank and a bad gank looks like, how to clear camps, the mindset of an Eve, and you're set.
Yep.
That's what I highly recommend.
For jungle, the game's very structured once you follow all the
and
fundamentals.
low elo brackets, in gold especially, it's incredibly structured.
Yeah.
Especially as an Eve, because your identity is so clear. That's what I love about Eve. Like Eve it's like you're not a facilitator. You're a hardcore carry. And so your job is very simple. It's like you need to get to 6. That's your main, right? Forget to level 6.
Play around your ults. No ults.
No ult,
shouldn't
no
really
fight.
be looking to fight in. And then just figuring out the basics about how to get picks in the mid game.
That's right.
And then just being strong. Always be
I'm
strong.
sure there's probably a lot of great stuff in your old Eve guide.
Yes, yeah. Watch my old Eve guide. Absolutely.
I think the old Eve guide, even though the trouble clearing and stuff's changed a little bit,
there's also
and
lots
maybe
of
the
stuff
build,
about the
it doesn't
identity.
matter, the concept and the mindset's probably identical. So don't really, that's what I would recommend as well. Because I get that question asked all the time. Like, so is some of my old guides relevant? Yeah, sometimes the build changes stuff. It depends on the guide. But like, for example, my old Annie guide, right? It's like, it's basically the same Vex, like all these old guides. Like, because the mindset and how you need to be thinking and the ability usage is basically the same, even though the builds and stuff slightly change. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, for junglers overall, they have this really big narrative that, like, especially if their team starts dying and stuff, they just have to force. But I always say in League of Legends, the harder you force, the quicker you lose. There's always opportunities. Be patient. They will present themselves if you're looking for them.
Spot on.
All right, well, that's it for our episode today, everyone. Good work. We're over 2 weeks into the season, so we're still pretty early on, guys.
So what do you mean 2 weeks?
Yep, 2 weeks.
What?
I know, it's crazy.
Really?
Good, it's just January. It's just ending January.
Feels like it's been months.
It does, doesn't it? So we got lots of work on to still on, guys, and we'll see you next episode.